Welcome to Tanked Up, the podcast about video games and beer. I'm Ben. It's episode 221. I'm here with Lucy.
Hi. Hi.
Hey. We're here with Aadil.
Hey!
And joining us all the way from the far north, it's Adam. Hey, Adam.
Hello. Not that far north.
That's true. How you doing, dude?
I'm not bad. Yourself?
Good, mate. Very good, thank you. For those of you watching us on your screen, you'll see that Adam's face doesn't appear. I mean, even since the last time you appeared 456 episodes ago, you didn't have a webcam then. You're still without one at the moment.
Yeah,
so
I'm waiting on a delivery now, apparently.
So you've substituted your beautiful face in for what you're drinking this evening.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
Why don't you let us know?
It's a lovely vodka and Dr. Pepper with ice for that added pizzazz.
Is it not warm enough yet that the ice is already melted?
It's mostly melted, yeah.
And for those of us who are for those listeners and who aren't viewers, what kind of vodka is it?
It's Smirnoff Red Label, the standard classic. But it's very nice. It's one of the better ones on your supermarket shelves, anyway.
Nice. They've changed their label since I had Smirnoff last, which was about 15 years ago.
Yeah, it'll have been through a couple of refreshes since then, I would imagine.
More than likely.
We love vodka around here. We love it straight.
Yeah, is this your tipple of choice?
Vodka usually is, yeah. In actual fact, my favourite kind of vodka I can't find anymore, which was the Smirnoff Black Label, which the red label is 37.5% and the black was 40%, but it was much smoother.
Yeah.
So it went down a lot easier. It's just a much more pleasant experience, but definitely worth the extra couple of quid it was for each bottle. But
Yeah.
I can't find it anywhere anymore, unfortunately.
That's weird.
I guess it just didn't prove popular enough to remain on the supermarket shelves, because I will admit I haven't looked very hard.
There'll be somewhere online you can find it.
We need to buy some drink for the party or whatever. I go to whatever supermarket happens to be the closest.
Yeah.
And have a look there. I go, well, it's not on the shelf, so Red Label it will be.
Obviously doesn't exist anymore. This one shop doesn't carry it, so it's gone forever.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds reasonably correct.
Right.
It might as well not exist, put it that way.
Yeah, true.
At least for tonight, it doesn't exist anywhere in the world. What does exist are the beers that the rest of us are going to be drinking. I am going to crack into a beer this week from Left-Handed Giant. Both of my beers from Left-Handed Giant. I had a little delivery from them. They started doing a mixed case, so 6 beers plus a new little glass. Ooh, stemmed one this time.
That looks familiar.
Yes.
Looks like the one I might have bought from them a few months ago.
So, I'm going to open Bless the Weather. It's a 6.6% hazy IPA. It's got Cryo Aquanaut and Mosaic in it. That's all the info we get, but nice little can out. Someone staring into the sun, or a mirror perhaps, emulating lots of light coming through. Obviously, because it's the summer now and it's beautiful outside.
It's been nice the last few days.
Depends how far south you come, I suppose.
I've seen Adam's pictures. It's always nice in Scotland, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I'm very selective for that reason.
Lucy,
So if you're not.
what are you opening up?
I have 2 beers from Boundary, so I'm repping Belfast today. I'm going to start with... Let's start with the lighter beer. In ABV, that is. This is the Imbongo, which is a tropical IPA. The flavour text, it says it took us 18 months of experimenting with our Push and Port IPA series to discover this hop combination of Mosaic and Azaka. Consider yourself discovered. 5.5%. 440 mils. The artwork is from johnrobinsonart.com. It's quite nice. It's very tropically, jungly kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, they seem to have not changed up their artwork too much. It's still kind of in the same vein as previous beers, but it's gone from a little bit more colour this time. A lot of them were quite grungy with maybe 1 or 2 tonal sort of colours. You know, a red and an orange on a background of greys and whites and things. But it looks like this one's just...
Yeah, like the other beer that I have.
Okay.
Yeah, this one's far more colourful.
Nice.
Yeah, just smelling it. Ooh. This should be good.
Nice. Good. Aadil, what have you got this week? Oh, we can't hear you.
Is he muted?
I muted myself because I was tapping away because Twitch didn't update right, and I didn't want my mechanical keyboard to interrupt. So instead, I forgot about it and made it way more awkward than it needed to be.
That's why you don't buy a mechanical keyboard.
I'm so glad to be learning from the technical masters here.
Yeah. Look. This is the razzmatazz you get on live streaming. This is what people want. Is not polished,
unedited.
I don't know. I got nothing. I'm drinking from Mobberley Brewhouse the Big Idea oatmeal stout because when I put the beers in the fridge for this week a couple days ago, I'm like, these are the ones, and then it got hot. It's a 5.2% oatmeal stout. It's got barley wheat notes. And that's about it on the tin. It's pretty.
Yeah.
It looks a little bluer, less purpley than like the background color is actually purple, but I think my white balance makes it look mostly blue.
It does look very blue. Yes.
Yeah. Dabba-dee, dabba-die. But yeah. So let me just crack this and pour it.
Cool. We'll talk about our beers first. I'm going to come back to you, Adam. Obviously, you're having a vodka and Dr. Pepper. Why Dr. Pepper?
It's the best cola.
What's the worst that could happen, Ben?
It just meshes very well. It's one of my preferences. I actually prefer that over like having it with Coke or Pepsi.
Yeah.
It just complements one another that wee bit better for whatever reason. I couldn't.
Okay.
Now, do you normally, if you were just having a cola, would you reach for the Dr. P, or would you would you go Pepsi, Coke?
It depends. I just kind of go around them as I feel like, or whatever happens to be on offer.
Yeah.
Tends to be the deciding factor. But yeah, I go around kind of all of them, just in turn. But yeah, it's definitely
fair enough.
It's definitely much more of a preference when it comes to pairing it with vodka.
Right.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, as
V&P?
What?
A vodka and pepper.
Vodka and pepper? That sounds a lot different.
V&P.
Yeah, I suppose like I don't like the taste of Coke or cola, so I'd probably have it with like lemonade. So maybe it's just like, oh, what's that flavour I prefer the most?
Yeah. I think lemonade's my preferred mixer for almost anything.
Yeah,
we don't really have lemonade, like bubbly lemonade, back home in Canada. It's just not a thing.
You've got like cloudy lemonade, haven't you?
What?
Like when you say lemonade, it's like the thing kids make and sell on the street.
Yeah, lemons with lots of sugar in it.
Cocaine. Yeah.
It's probably just as Moorish.
Yeah. No, yeah. So it's very strange and like it's like a ginger lemon. Like we don't even have ginger beer, right? Either. Like we just have soft drinks. Like the closest you get to a lemonade is a Sprite.
I'm just thinking of like The Simpsons with the lemon tree, and like yeah, in America there's all lemons. What is it at the end of the when they take the lemon tree back and it's like Shelbyville had some weird alternative fruit, and they were like this prune juice or something. It was their national drink or whatever. That's what I think of Canada. It's like you just drink maple syrup or something.
I think that checks out. I think that's about right. Let's drink these beers and tell you all about them. So the Bless the Weather from Left Handed Giant. It's very, very easy, ridiculously easy. Nice light nose, little tropical hit to it. Little like a little hop note coming off of there as well. Not quite a pininess, and I would have thought it would have been a bit pinier than it is in the flavour with the acuanot in there as well. But it does have a little bit of a deeper note to it. And on the flavour, it matches very well with the nose. So you're getting a lovely tropical flavour. There's a little bit of sweetness in there. Maybe a little bit of pineapple. Some mango in there as well, maybe. Just something giving it a hint of sweetness, which then kind of pulls away to leave you with a slightly more deeper, bitter, soured kind of fruit leading into this slightly piney, slightly green kind of hoppy note to it as well. A little bit of dank, and it's just a tiny note in there. It was only brewed 11 days ago, so it's not kind of the 2-day super hoppy, super green kind of beer, but it still has a little bit.
Super hop. Super hop.
We're going to talk about that later, maybe. Who knows?
I tried to play it, so no.
Yeah, so did I. But yeah, it's really good. It's really easy. This is perfect for kind of this time of the evening, really, as well. Especially if, well, I had their fruited sour earlier, which was very nice as well. And this follows on from that really, really well. It just gives you a little bit more depth. It's not quite as fruity. Brings in a bit more of a bitter, piney, dank kind of finish to it as well. So yeah, very much enjoying this, and it feels like I've got a tiny glass because I have, and I keep topping it up.
It'll last longer then, instead of doing the dangerous pours that you usually do, right up to the brim.
That's it. I'll just pour it up to that 1/3 of a pint line, just to show you. I mean, it's, you know, pretty standard colouring for an IPA.
Yeah.
But it's nice.
Oh man, now I want IPA.
Oh, Lucy. How's yours?
Yeah, I've just been sniffing it while you've been talking. Yeah, it was about a foot away and I could still just smell it. It's just like really like zingy, like zesty, like fruits, tropical fruits. Bit of orange, bit of lemon.
Nice.
Bit of everything. Yeah, it's a really good looking beer. It looks like it looks kind of like the raspberry ripple that I had last week, where it looks thick, it looks viscous. It's completely.
Well, it should be if it was an ice cream.
Not quite, Adam, but yeah. But yeah, it's a really good looking beer. It's kind of just a little bit darker than straw. Might be coming up a little bit more orangey on the other side, but yeah, really nice looking head as well. Yeah, this is good.
Excellent.
I haven't had a bad beer from Boundary.
No, I don't think I have, to be honest. It's a little. It's not as thick as it looks. It's much thinner on the end taste. Slightly more watery than I would have expected. Not in a bad way. It tastes more juicy, like fruit juice, rather than a beer. I think it's missing that hoppiness and the bitterness at the end for sure. But it has got so much fruit in like all of the taste from start to end, and it's got a nice piney resinous like kind of taste as well. So I mean, it's got like half the good qualities that I like from like an IPA. I think they're definitely leaning to more tropical than, you know, the bitterness and the hoppiness that I want from a traditional IPA, but it's still really, really good.
Nice.
Yeah, I think I'm just missing those, you know, flavor profiles that would make it more beer-like and less juice-like. But hey, if you're someone like Adam and you like juice, maybe this is the bridging beer between vodka and actually getting to drink a beer on the podcast.
That's it. We'll have to start making a list of beers that are, well, this is the problem, isn't it? Finding beers that are then readily available to be able to send to people rather than those one-off brews.
Yeah, didn't we force you once when you were a guest star hundreds of episodes ago to like message us from the grocery store to be like, which of these 7 beers that are available?
I think that was the first time I was on.
And then you're like, wait, I don't have to do this. How about I just don't?
I tried one. It was bad.
Yeah. I recall you distinctly not liking it.
Yeah. Well, maybe this is the one, but yeah, we'll never know until I send you a case and then you have to drink it. Yeah, this is. I don't know. I'll let it warm up a bit. See if any of those, you know, the bit of hoppiness comes after when it warms up a bit. But yeah, I'm still really enjoying it. It is really easy. It'll go down very quickly. But yeah, I wish it was had come full circle. Just promised on the fruit, and it went through with that. Just yeah. Well, it brought full circle with the hops and bitterness, but just isn't doing that at the moment.
Fair enough. Aadil, how's your beer?
It's very oatmeal stouty. It actually smells a little more alcohol-y than I would think at a 5.2%. Just has a bit of that alcohol sweetness on the nose, and then standard sort of roasted malty. Sorry?
Said like mine.
Actually, hold it up to the screen. They could almost be the same.
Yeah.
Mine has a head. That sweetness I was mentioning is there as well. So it at 5.2%, it's less viscous than I would like. It doesn't quite coat the mouth. It's a little wet feeling on the mouthfeel. Sorry, my cat is yelling like a motherfucker at the door. It's real distracting. I was hoping I could get through this and then casually dodge to the door, and turns out I'm just gonna deal with it now that I brought it up. Be right back.
We might as well.
Cat cameo.
That's where he won't come in now.
I'm just yelling. And
just want to let Aadil. Oh no, here he is. Here he is. He's coming.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Classic cat behaviour, that.
Yeah.
Assholes, all of them.
It's you've opened the door. Now what?
Yeah.
Yeah, for those of you who were on video, you could have seen me just standing there with the door open and a good 10 seconds of Cat being like, I'm still gonna yell at you. I'm not gonna come in. Anyway, beer, right. Having that. Deep breath.
Sounds like you need it now.
Cats drive you to alcohol. That's what it is.
That's true. That's
He's
it.
just licking his crotch. He just came in so he could lick his crotch in my general direction.
They love doing that, yeah. Just they walk into a room purposefully to do that.
Yeah,
room
I think
full
he
of
wanted an
people.
audience. Like, he was just like, look, I'm not just going to lick my crotch when I can lick my crotch at someone.
So true.
Yeah. So the podcat is in the room. I'll just keep him on screen. Fickle little bastard.
So he can lick his crotch at the audience as well.
Yep. No, I think he's done. I think he's just gonna sit there and stare.
Do you have to put that on like a adults only stream or something?
Maybe.
Do you have to...
That's
we're already at
explicit,
18
Mark.
plus because we talk about alcohol and drink.
So when you stereotypically zoom in on that.
Yeah.
That's a different kind of stream.
Right, finish off these beer thoughts.
Yeah, beer thought. Beer is beer. It's not exceptionally oatmeal-y. I'm really surprised at like I said, how thin it is and how sweet the finish is. Like I'd expect more of a sweetness from like a milk stout because the lactose wouldn't be broken down, but like it doesn't claim to have it, and it finishes quite sweet. It's kind of except for that, the general stoutiness is kind of just it's a little roasted malt, not a lot. Pretty inoffensive in that way. Like I said, the surprise is the sweet finish, slight coffeeness throughout the whole thing. That's not coffeeness; it's coffeeness. It's ness that is like coffee, not it makes one want to cough.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, you cannot yell at the door. Sorry. Wow, Dorian's not usually this fucking interactive with the podcast.
Because there's company. Well,
yeah, he's just like, yep, we got a guest. Time to. So anyway, yeah, it's sort of generic stout with a bit of oatmeal back end, like not really strongly oatmeal stout, except for this like layer of sweetness that is there on the nose and is there on the finish and kind of isn't quite as present for the rest. So it's not quite a one-note stout. It's just sort of it's doing generic stout thing, and then it's like, oh, also I'm sweet at the other end, and I'm hoping it'll grow on me because I just wasn't prepared for that level of sweetness. It's just not a standard thing. It's not what I would expect out of an oatmeal stout like this, and so maybe by the end of it, I'll be like, cool, this was really interesting, versus right now I'm kind of just distracted, and I don't know how much of that is because it's just not great, or because I just wasn't expecting it.
Okay, fair. We'll return to it at the end of the episode for more thoughts to see if it's felt any better on you. So, let's kick off. With our topics of the week. Adam, as our guest this week, what would you like to discuss on the podcast?
Oh, I didn't know I had to bring a topic.
Let's talk about Ghost of Tsushima then.
Yeah, I was like, your topic is that thing that you already talked to Ben, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Ghost of Tsushima, which came out on Friday. So I've just started Act 2, and I've finished kind of the first. The island's broken into kind of 3 parts. I've finished the first part of it so far.
Okay, nice.
So I'm quite the ways in. I don't know how many hours that is.
Doesn't PlayStation lock that? Or do they still not do that?
I'm not sure where they might be hiding it because it's not in the save file where it normally is. But a lot of games it tends to be in that, and I haven't found it in any of the menus, so I don't know. It's a few. I'll put it that way. It's a few hours. That is how many it has been. Ben, I believe you have also been playing. How far in are you?
Yes. How far in am I? It's difficult to tell how much progress I've made towards kind of getting through the first act. So some of the tales, which are what they call missions instead, give you numbers on them, so you might meet up with someone and start their mission sequence, and these are for more of the kind of supporting cast, and you kind of do mission or tale 1 of 9, and I think with 2 of them I'm roughly halfway with their tales. I've done maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6 with one of them. I've done a couple of them with a third character. And then I've done a few spotty tales all around and explored the island a little bit. I assume that I only have to do the supporting characters' tales and the main quest line to progress. I mean, I may even have to do the main quest line to progress through to sort of towards the end of Act 1. But from what I played so far, knowing that this is only the first act, I don't know whether that's a third of the way through, or you know, they've apportioned it in that sort of way. It seems just so big. It seems absolutely massive.
If I can interrupt, so each act is a different part of the island? Is that what you said?
Like it's a geographic.
There's three areas. Is it like
it seems like that,
3 or something?
because I would liken the southern half of the island, which is where you start, is basically almost like White Orchard in The Witcher 3, and they're like that. You start there, and then you branch out into more, and there's there's a bit in, obviously in this, White Orchard was quite small. This is the whole southern half of the island, pretty much. So it starts you off there. The first couple of tales with the side characters and stuff that you meet kind of introduces you to the various elements in the game, and then you basically have that whole section of the island to explore. But there's a very definitive gated point in the middle that stops you going any further north yet until you progress into Act 2.
Is it that classic thing of like, oh, we haven't built this bridge yet, or something like that? Or is it just do it in a smarter way, like 20 years down the line?
Well, it's smarter in that it's very fitting to the 1300s, in that there's a big fuck off castle.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah,
and there's a load of Mongols inside it, so you know you can't actually get through it straight away, and that's the impetus for the Act 1. Is your uncle, the Lord of the island, Lord Shimura, is he's trapped in the castle. So your plan is basically to figure out a way and gather some allies to help you break into the castle and get him out.
Okay.
And then from there it progresses into the north half of the island.
Okay.
Right.
But I haven't actually really went anywhere into the north of the island yet. As I say, I've literally just started Act 2. I got to that point and then went, I'm going to finish off the bit of the island that I was at first before I move any further, I think.
Yeah.
Are you doing everything, Adam? Are you getting all the collectibles and stuff, or are you just trying to mainline like some of the side quests and main quests, or are you for the platinum on this one?
I've ended out doing everything pretty much so far.
Okay.
I've been kind of jumping about between different things, like doing a few of the tales and then exploring off to different areas, and then you would come across more stuff. But
how have you found the balance between mainline side quests? Does it feel like you are like changing your playstyle? Does it feel like you're getting hijacked? I was just read like different opinions on the way the game presents you the extra stuff, and I was curious how you found like you're clearly doing all the extra stuff. Does it feel like you're like taking a pause or being distracted, or like or is it just really fluid for you?
It's been really fluid so far. I think I would liken it a little bit in the sense that a good kind of thinking point for how the open world is structured is, to start off with, is Spider-Man, the PS4 exclusive, in the way that although it's not revolutionary in terms of exactly what you're doing, it is very much go here, liberate that, go here, fight off the guys, go here, pick that up, or go there, find this thing.
Right.
In the same way that Spider-Man made me want to cover every inch of ground in the whole of Manhattan, because traversing it was so fun, and the combat was pretty solid. Ghost of Tsushima takes that to another level as well, and the island's so good to look at. I enjoy just roaming about it very slowly, which I don't normally do. Normally you're just, as fast as you can travel across the island normally in most games. Even in The Witcher 3 I tend to do that. But in this I find myself moving through the island at a kind of slow pace, just kind of a regular horse trot rather than galloping around. And I like the way that it feels like a maturing of the design, in the sense of they're integrating everything into the actual world instead of couching it in loads of menus and map points. In the way that like the songbirds come down and lead you to stuff, and the foxes show you trails to things, and like the smoke on the horizon and all that. It actually does feel like a maturing of the immersion side of how you would structure an open world, and present it, even if the tasks themselves aren't as revolutionary maybe.
The visual design is striking. And I love how what I've seen is that the wind like directs you to it's like I don't know, the road signs in like Mafia, how it's just like it's very diegetic. You don't need to look at the map, it's just like it's in there in the world, and Yeah, that seems really cool.
You use the map essentially to decide what activity you want to do or where you want to go, like in a broad sense. Like if there's, say, like a farmstead or something that's been captured by the Mongols that you want to go get to, that's the next thing on your mission that you want to do. You can select it, and then the wind guides you towards it. And after that, once you've selected it, you don't need to look at the map anymore.
Right.
It does just guide you the whole time. And it's those sorts of things that really make it stand apart in that regard, because it is so much more immersive than having the compass and the wee mini map and all of that stuff, because it is very much in the world. The wind, you know, you swipe up on the touchpad to make it much more obvious. It gives you the, you know, much more obvious effects, but it's always blowing in the right direction. So even just looking at the grass, you can tell where you have to go. Yeah. Even if sometimes you go, right, I'm not 100% sure, so I'll flick the thing and it'll tell me exactly. It'll be very obvious, like that way.
Yeah, and I've barely flicked on the touchpad at all to, you know, call the wind in. It's just been, there's been so many particle effects on screen. You can see the direction in which they are being blown, so you just know the rough direction that you can go in. And you'll find that if you're sort of moving around on your horse and you're going forward, but your point was here, but actually you're kind of veering off to the side and kind of going towards the side of the point, the particles will shift, and obviously the wind is all centered on that point, will always flow to the point that you have chosen. So you will notice when they shift, and you will be able to follow it really, really fluidly and naturally. And you do, I think, find some points, and the only time I think I've used it is when I've perhaps come up to a cliff face, and it's not just that it shows a big gust of wind, and I don't know if this is something you can turn on and off because I haven't investigated, but in the top corner it also tells you how far away you are from it. So it will say you are 150 meters away, and at points I thought, right, I don't need to get off my horse and scale this cliff in front of me or this big hill. I'll just trot around it because it's not on the hill, it's on the other side of this. So actually I can still make my way there quite quickly by knowing that I can just follow the line of this, get around it and move, rather than get off the horse, climb the wall, run across, get back down the other side.
That's useful.
It is very, very useful. It just allows you a little bit more freedom. And whilst it is a big game and it's full of stuff to do and things that...
it's one of those.
It is one of those. It is absolutely one of those. A lot of the stuff that you do does count towards your progression as a character. So you will get supplies or different things that you can find from various areas which go towards upgrades of your weapons and your armor. You might find little places that are hot springs which you can take a bath in, and that increases your life. Very small, but it increases your life. There is, I can't remember, what does haiku? You can sit there and write haiku as well and stuff. And
the haikus give you headbands.
Yes. So there's lots of different things.
Did they go down like
Did this headbands have any stat bonuses, or is this just like you're pretty?
I think the headbands are just vanity.
Yeah, they're just cosmetic as far as I know.
Did they go down a checklist of like what is Japanese? I mean, like, okay, we got haikus, we got hot springs.
You've got you play the Japanese flute.
Yeah, the funny thing about the flute actually changes the weather. So for the first couple hours of the game, I only saw sunshine because the first song you have is to make it sunny, and I was playing it all the time. I didn't realise that's what it was doing at first.
That leads into my question, like, is there any supernatural like elements? I'm sure I saw like a trailer or something. Did he turn into a dragon? I can't remember, but I don't know. Is there any supernatural?
Wait, what?
I don't know. Maybe it was something else. Maybe, or he turned into some fire breathing thing.
I want to turn into a dragon.
There's some, but not in regards to like the combat or anything. But there's some elements because there's particular tales that are like mystic tales of like legends of the past. They take you to get either like powerful bits of armor or unlock powerful moves. that you can only get through following these various trails, and it takes a few steps and you get to them. And there's a couple of them we've had very, because they're couched in all the spiritual nature of those things, and one of the weapons you get is supposedly cursed, and that plays into it. And so there is some elements of that, but it's
not as much as I was probably thinking. I thought you were like some shadow ninja or something like
that. It's not like The Witcher in that sense. There's no, cutting magic, setting people on fire.
I honestly thought that's what it was.
Also,
you can set people on fire, but it's with fire arrows.
Yeah.
What I like about it,
what I like about it is that there is this mystic element to it, but actually everything is pretty grounded in reality. There is an explanation for a lot of things within this, and whilst something so I picked up a move, you tap 2 buttons together to do a pretty powerful sword attack, and it gives you this mystic story. You have to go and talk to like this bard character, this musician, who tells you the tale, and it goes into this lovely kind of ink comic book kind of cinematic to explain the tale to you. But actually, when you get there, you fight someone who has learned this technique because someone has told them about it, and rather than the character Jin, he says, I'm watching you, I'm watching what you're doing. So actually he is learning the technique from fighting this opponent, rather than it being a mystic technique handed down to him by some deity or supernatural being. Everything is kind of grounded in a little bit more reality, and it does still say this is very mystic and supernatural, but that fits the setting and fits the time very, very well. And I don't think I found anything. Off
Infamous, I thought there'd be like a bit more. Yeah, his fire god Liu Kang or something like that. And I don't know.
Well, it definitely has that little bit of a vibe to it, and you know, playing it, I think just from the tone of the game and the colours, the aesthetic of it, but also then these extra bits. I'm like, this is a Sucker Punch game. I can see how they have, how they've stepped up from the previous games that they've made, but where its genesis comes from, and just kind of how they've adapted and changed a little bit to make this. It still sort of retains that almost not cartoony sense to it, not at all, but it has that pop to its aesthetic.
And it has that slight sense of exaggeration, as if it's already a story.
Do you mean like drawn art versus cartoony, which is very Japanese, and like old school Japan had a lot of like line drawn art in it of characters and stuff, but wasn't sort of cartoon or anime or animated. It was just
it's not it's
not the stuff you see on scrolls.
It doesn't. So even the stuff you see on scrolls, it doesn't quite. It's a very modern art take on it. It's not old school Japanese art,
right?
And it's much more. So the one cinematic I've seen, and the tutorial scenes as well, which are kind of inked up drawings. They're very much in that sweeping brush kind of sense, rather than it being a comic book kind of panel. Everything has that lovely flow to it, but it's all kind of black art with maybe a pop in a colour to
like
it.
Red Dead 2, when it's like
a little
like that kind of postcardy looking.
A little like that, but a bit more. Yeah, definitely has more of that modern Japanese tone to it. And I don't currently have any criticism about it, and we'll come back to you, Adam, to see if there's anything from you. But the one thing that it's not really a criticism, it's more of an observation, in that this is a beautiful game. The aesthetic is stunning, and I am playing on a base PS4, but the thing that I picked up coming off of the back of The Last of Us Part 2 is that The Last of Us Part 2 is so rich in detail and texture and movement And this has some lovely wind effects. It's got some lovely animations, but things like the facial animation is a little bit not stilted, not even stilted. But after The Last of Us Part 2, it feels just that grade below. You can look at some of the textures and they're not quite as rich as they are in something like The Last of Us Part 2. It's still a beautiful game, absolutely still a beautiful game. And looking back at stuff like you know, The Witcher 3, it is better looking than The Witcher 3. But it's probably, after you've played The Last of Us Part 2 and seen the detail in that, my mind was instantly like, oh, this looks like The Witcher 3 now. This is what The Witcher 3 looked like. This is what stuff looks like now, and it doesn't. It is better than The Witcher 3. Maybe not better than The Witcher 3 on the most high-end PC capable of running that.
Say, like, The Witcher 3 in 4K is like beautiful. Fair enough, I haven't played Ghost, but
I think on a base PS4, this is probably the most aesthetically pleasing game. But I think The Last of Us Part 2 is the best looking, the best detailed game.
Yeah.
Is it so? I've read a few different opinions on it, and one thing that I don't want to push you guys towards, but you seem to have got here on your own, is one of the complaints is it's such a breathtakingly beautiful game, and it's just littered with distractions from exploring the world for its own sake, because of all the side quests and collectibles, etc., that you're like so busy tracking this, that, the other thing, that you don't get to just wander around. And so that seems juxtaposed with what you're saying, which is kind of like something in the like that seems to be like overly detailed in the gameplay versus environment. But you seem to be saying there's just not enough detail in general. So I just thought, could you, like, one, do you think that criticism of it'd be nice if I could explore the world on my own terms instead of seemingly like being led around by gameplay mechanics that don't really match the aesthetic, that point, but also, is that what you mean by like not enough detail, that it's not just like this living organic world?
No, it's definitely a living organic world. I think by less detail it is in terms of textures.
You mean like literal?
Literal, yeah. There's lots of stuff going on. I mean, you can look at kind of individual blades of grass and things like that, but actually when you kind of get into the textures and things like that, there isn't quite as much as the Last of Us Part 2, and that just is kind of next level, really, in terms of its level of detail aesthetically.
It's hard because it's not an open world, The Last of Us 2.
Oh, very much, absolutely. It's
I don't think you can compare anything to The Last of Us Part 2.
And it's
never going to be fair.
I completely agree. It's not going to be fair. It's a very different game. They can put their resources very differently into that game, and I think Ghost of Tsushima is a beautiful looking game. In terms of the world and being sort of led around it and things, I've actually just been exploring my own way and kind of not being led around very much, and just saying, well, I'm just going to go over here now and have a look at what's going on. I know that there's a question mark on the map. It's just popped up because I've chatted to someone in this camp over here, and they've given me some kind of explanation as to why there may be something I should investigate. So there's now a question mark on the map. I'll go and have a look. And
no, sorry, continue.
And just it's very, I think it is very fluid in allowing you the opportunity to move around. And just before we do switch, Adam, did you feel led at all moving around the island?
No, in the sense that like you can ignore it.
Yeah.
Like the songbirds and that, you know, appear in front of you, and you get the wee audio cue to tell you that there's one near you, and then it'll lead you off to where it wants you to go. But you don't have to follow it. There's nothing forcing you to do that.
I think the comment was there was so much of those things that you never felt like you were just immersed in the world for the world's sake. Again, this is me. This was a thing that I heard that I was like, really, if that's the case, I'm way less enthused about it. So I thought I wanted to check with you guys whether, like, how annoying it is, like how distracting are all those cues?
I wouldn't say they are. I'd say you get quite a few initially, because the game's trying to introduce you to all the different parts.
Yes. Yeah, because the game's letting you know what mechanics are.
Yeah. It's telling you all the various things, so it's showing you go to like the hot springs for this, and you go to the bamboo cutting thing for that, and you know, it's showing you where the fox den is and what that does. It takes you to a shrine and all the rest of it. But once you get through the initial kind of tutorialized section, and you move past that out into the broader island, that goes away. You don't go very far without encountering something of note, but it doesn't feel like you're being forced into anything beyond, obviously. If there's enemies there, and see you, they attack you, which is what you would expect.
I think it's just very more like, this is a game. This is a video after video game. It's not Red Dead, where we're not going to put any or very few markers on. Like, it's not like, oh, this is where you do this particular thing, and this is where you do that particular thing. It's not as
this is again where I find that it's a maturing of how you design an open world, in the sense that all of these activities and things fit very easily into what the world is, why you're there, why the Mongols are there, what's happening to these people. And you know, and the island as a whole, it fits all of that. So you'll come across a few Mongols that have captured, you know, a Japanese peasant from somewhere. You know, you kill the Mongols and you free them, and then they go, oh, I was captured here and they've attacked, you know, this wee village, or they've been here and they've set up a checkpoint, and that starts to inform you of where some of the Mongol kind of camps are and things of note, or they give you stuff. And you encounter people that way, as well as just exploring for its own sake. But it's that melding of the two that I really like, because it all fits together, as opposed to you go to Manhattan and discover that Spider-Man is the most forgetful man on Earth, and leaves a bunch of backpacks with RFID tags in them scattered across Manhattan, which is just it's a poor excuse to fit in a collectible. Whereas these all feel at least a lot more thought out in this terms of how they present them into the narrative of the world and why you're there and doing that stuff.
So it's sort of like in between that kind of Spider-Man, you know, very derivative open world versus like Red Dead. But because I've heard arguments that it's like, no, you're still doing the Assassin's Creed, like unlocking towers and finding foxes and stuff like that. It's just very video gamey, but if it makes more sense and context in that world, that's interesting.
You definitely are doing that. Like, if you strip it back to its absolute, what's the simplest explanation for what you do is fetch quests, eliminations, camps, or towers, or whatever. It is, if you boil it down to its most basic level, then that is what you're doing. And that's where
every video game, though.
Absolutely.
But that's where you know, hopefully, as these things, as game development matures, hopefully, maybe in the next generation, we'll see a lot more development in that element of it. But in terms of how they present that kind of basic, well, here's an open world formula that works because it has worked and people enjoy them. Here is the kind of best version of that.
Yeah,
that's how this feels.
I'm just seeing it as this is the swan song for like the PS4. And where Infamous Second Son, that was very, this is open world video game 101. So I was just wondering, what is that journey? What is the evolution? Is there... It doesn't matter if there's, you know, a big enough one, because this game will go on to sell so many copies and people are happy with it. So I'm just wondering, from maybe a personal standpoint, will I ever pick this up? I don't know, because I'm just thinking, do I want another derivative open world video game? No matter how much these things make sense in the context of the world, if it is just still bandit camp, collectible, it's like, do I want that? I don't know. You know, so I'm just wondering how far, you know, open world video game designers actually come.
Well, and I think, how far can it go? You know, what can be the next evolution of something is here, go and do that. Something is here, go and do that.
We've seen it. We've seen Breath of the Wild. We've seen Red Dead. This generation, and those games are 2-3 years old.
And I think with Ghost of Tsushima, it isn't. Here is something, do it. Here is something, do it. It's here is something.
Yeah,
and you can just choose to do that or not. I mean, it does give you and if you do it, it does improve your renown on the island, which is the way of giving you better techniques and things. So there is an upgrade element to it as well. So by doing more things around the island, the stronger you become.
Yeah, but there's a difference as well in that whatever you do adds to that, as opposed to having to do this specific task for these all the time. There's a lot of it is most of the shrines and stuff like that are all optional. You don't need to go anywhere near them to progress, as opposed to it feeling like you have to do them to get the best stuff.
It's not this weird like optimization wandering path.
No.
Yeah, I think I'm just I'm fed up of open world games. Like at this point, I'd say I dislike them more than I like them. You know, and it takes a lot for it to be something different. Spider-Man, I'll give a pass because I like that character and the story was actually good, which is actually what I wanted to ask about this. Is the story any good? I've heard not great to middling things about the story.
I'll let you answer it, Adam, because you're a lot further than I am.
So I've liked it so far. It's obviously drawing on all that lore of the samurai films from Kurosawa and stuff like that I'm not really familiar with myself. So as much as I'm very interested in, you know, the samurai and that way of life and how they couch everything and there's a system of honor and all the rest of it. I like how it's playing with that. But even that crops up and crashes into, you know, it is still a game in the sense that it makes quite a big deal about the first time you assassinate someone, and then
there's a Lara Croft.
And then immediately after that, I killed another 2 people exactly the same way.
With zero consequence as well.
But then in the second kind of story mission after that, there's another wee shorter moment that's similar right at the start. You know, exactly that same about Jin, you know, grappling with that side of, you know, he's breaking what he's supposed to be about, you know, the man of honor who stares his enemy in the eye and kills them in a fair fight as opposed to stabbing them in the back and all that. But
there seems to be a reflection of character, at least in terms of the story and how Jin is feeling. But I felt that there's one character who talks about honor and he says, you killed some people like this and that's not how samurai are. And it wasn't suddenly, you can never do another mission for me again. It was just, I'm going to tell you off and we're just going to move on.
Yeah. I think that's almost part of the point of these kind of narratives. It's highlighting the hypocrisy of the words and the actions. Any belief system that's that rigid and not flexible doesn't get you anywhere.
Like the rest of the Infamous games.
That's
why I don't like the Infamous games that much.
But that is the sort of, that's how they get into this mess in the first place. Like they decide that the samurai way is to start a pitched battle as the Mongols land and they get their arses handed to them. Because they don't fight in terrain that suits them. They don't fight in a manner that, you know, that enhances their chances of winning. They don't fight with any strategic sense. They just charge in and get absolutely whipped, and that's the start of the game and how the island gets captured in the first place. So, and it's sort of interesting seeing the two sides of that, how Jin obviously struggles with how he was brought up to believe that this is how he's supposed to act, the necessity of doing what has to be done to liberate the island from the Mongols and survive and save his uncle and all the rest of it, and then it starts cropping up with a few samurai that are left who start bitching about the fact that he stabbed a couple of people in the back or whatever to save them, and you're like, well, fuck yourself, mate.
Well, but I would have liked a little bit more consequence from that. So, you know, and this is one of the things that we talked about with the Infamous games hundreds of episodes ago, whenever we spoke about them, how whilst it cuts you off and you have to pick a side almost, whether to be good or to be bad, to unlock better abilities and things like that.
Yeah,
there might be a different ending to the game. And you may open up other and cut yourself off from other missions and things. Ghost of Tsushima doesn't seem to have taken that to another level. It is very much just here, at least for me so far. Here are some missions. You can do them. Irrelevant of what you do within the world, you will always be able to go and do this mission. You cannot ever be that bad that this mission will suddenly cut itself off from you. There doesn't seem to be any kind of consequence within the world about the way I act. And you would, and Adam, I completely agree that it does seem to, you know, look at the sort of very rigid structure of 13th century, was it 13th century, but Japan of that time, and how angry people get that you're fighting without honor and all of these things, but there's no consequence. The characters just go, sure, I'll just carry on, I'll just crack on with this. You can still come and join me for the next part of my mission. And it would have been nicer to have seen some kind of divergence of story or path or something.
Right. I think you'll start to see that in the later acts.
Good. Okay. Nice.
Because without going into any particular details, obviously, you know, you unlock the north half of the island, so you capture that castle eventually, and you free his uncle, and his uncle reacts quite badly to Yuna. Yeah. Who's the character? Yeah, who's the character who sets this entire thing in motion? Is the most pivotal person, because without her you'd be dead. Like right from the word go. Yeah. And it's actually Yuna that's pivotal in setting you along that kind of path towards becoming the Ghost of Tsushima and straying away from strictly samurai path. So I think from what they've said in interviews before, the story is about Jin going from straight-laced, upstanding samurai to the Ghost of Tsushima, regardless of how you play it. So even if you play it mostly as upstanding samurai, you still unlock those abilities and you become renowned as the Ghost as the story progresses. So I think you'll see narrative consequences amongst the characters, particularly with a clash with his uncle at some point is how I'm thinking it will come along. And there's some other characters who I think will play into that sort of fight. Yeah. If that's maybe how Act 3 goes or something like that. I see that definitely on the horizon. But I don't think it will lock you out of any of the activities or the missions or abilities, but I see it'll have a narrative consequence at least, I think. They'll at least explore it.
But it's a scripted narrative consequence, isn't it? It's not a narrative consequence based upon your actions or the way that you play, which I think I liked from Sucker Punch. I liked the idea that they, you know, whether they did it very well or not, but I kind of like the idea that, like, well, if you're going to play this way, that's the way, this is how it's going to go.
Yeah, that's one of the things that The Witcher 3 does very well, is giving you the consequence within the world.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Even if it doesn't always impact the larger story, but, you know, certain activities and actions you take can lead to, you know, the killing of an entire village and stuff like that, depending on what you do. There's a lot of moral grey, and I think just because the way they've structured their narrative in this one, that it is you're going from the light to the dark, in quotes, as the samurai would see it. It's taking you along that path. That's the story they want you to have. So they're not giving you that element of it. But I think as long as they follow through on that element to it, and there is real narrative consequence that works and is structured well, then that'll be interesting, even without the gameplay kind of repercussions that you would maybe have liked in a different game. Or it's something that they maybe could. That's maybe something that we'll see more of in the future with games, but it's just obviously not what they went for in this one. But before we move on, I wanted to go back to a couple of things about the graphics stuff. Okay. Because I think the like you mentioned, the facial animations. I think the problem I have with them tends to be that the bottom half of the face is a lot more movable than the top half. You know, like the eyes and the forehead and stuff doesn't really move very much, and I think that's why it doesn't quite look as good as it. They're very
it's like Thunderbird's puppets, isn't it?
they're still very expressive, but they're just not quite as fully expressive across the whole face as you'd maybe want. And I suppose it gets away with it slightly because they're all very stoic. And
yes, they are.
As much as the world has literally fallen apart around them and foreign invaders have turned up, there's not a lot of hysteria, which you would maybe expect, considering how people have reacted to COVID. I would have expected a lot more, you know. If it had turned up with a sword, I would have expected a lot more hysteria, but no. And that side of it, and then with regards to like the texturing and stuff, I think I agree with them not being quite as detailed as maybe they are in some other games, even like The Witcher 3, in terms of the stuff that's static, but they've used the particle effects and built it into the wind and all the rest of it. All of that is so much more alive.
It is, yeah.
It distracts the eye away from the fact that, you know, it's a very flat looking load of leaves that you're walking across the top of, because you're getting all the lovely particle effects that come off it. It's a good way of covering it and still giving you, you know, quite a good draw distance and everything else for all the other stuff that's going on. As well as the particle effects for the wind that are so important to the game working.
I'm guessing there's no load times, so you can just go from one end to the other, maybe?
You can go from one end to the other. The only time there are load times, I think, is when you fast travel. But
there's loading every time you talk to someone. Every time you press R2 to speak to someone, it puts you into
black for a second or something like that.
It loads you into just a slightly like set scene.
A set scene. I think that's more of an aesthetic choice, that it is trying to capture that more movie type filmic sense, that they can set a scene or show the way that people talk from a certain camera sort of point of view.
Photography sort of cut to.
That's definitely true, but when you're talking to the merchants and stuff like that, it does it, and that's there's always a slight delay between it moving into that and them having the re-conversation and then moving back. So I think there's a wee hidden loading screen in there.
There probably is, and I did read that when you do fast travel or there is some kind of loading screen, they bring up tips, and they actually slowed down the not slowed down the load times, but they forcibly made them longer, because the loading was so quick that you couldn't read any of the tips on the screen.
That sucks.
So they slowed it just a little.
Give me some paper.
Exactly.
So I have found that
have a helps menu, like oh, I don't know, why don't I just hit pause and then go to list of tips and tricks?
I don't know how true it is. I don't know how true that is.
I've definitely found that the loading is very quick.
It is.
You will read one tip and you will click the button to see the next tip, and you will not see the next tip.
You should have better tutorialization then, instead of asking players to read something in a load
every
screen.
tip I've read, I think I've known what it's telling me already, just because it tells you that through the world.
That's dumb.
It's just one of those that
it's like Next Generation eliminates load times, but no, we're going to put them in anyway, so you read some tips.
It's one of those that you can't just have a load screen like a Fade to Black and then nothing. They have to have something on it, and it's fairly standard kind of game design practice that you
war quote. I don't need to read any of those. Like, come on, just load the game immediately.
They always have to put something on it. I think that's all that is. It's tips.
But don't slow them down.
I don't know if that's true, but the loading's definitely pretty quick. From what I've experienced, you know.
Right, let's move on from Ghost of Tsushima.
No! This is the Ghost of Tsushima pod.
Maybe we'll return to it if we've got some time at the end. If you've got more thoughts, Adam, to give us, well, maybe you can return to us in a month's time when, you know, one of us has finished it. Probably you before me.
I was going to say, it's not going to take me a month. Not at the rate I've been playing it.
I think I'm on for a month, I reckon. Let's open some more beers. Adam, you're sticking on your vodka and Dr Pepper. You're not shifting mixer or anything.
No, I'm just sticking with the same. It's a school night. I don't want to be
Fair.
mixing drinks.
Yep. I am going to drink another left-handed giant beer, but this is a collaboration with Deya, called Mockingbird Dream. It's a double IPA at 8%. It has Citra, Cryer Mosaic, and Strata in it. Barley, oats, wheat are the allergens. That's all it tells me. I'm not sure whether the can actually did show up on screen just then.
It does, yeah. It's got a lovely geometric.
Yeah.
Art.
Lucy.
Cubism.
A little bit of cubism.
Impressionist, I don't know.
Lucy, what's the next beer that you're drinking?
From Boundary, and
yes.
this is called Right Hand Man Back. It's an IPA again. This one's 6%. It just says IPA with 16 grams per litre of dry hop mosaic. Yeah, that's it. 440ml again.
Cool. Hello, how about you?
I'm having the Garden Brewery's Flat White Coffee Porter. It's made in Croatia. It's that's where Garden Brewery is from. 5.5%. Cold brew iced coffee porter, rich, smooth, and creamy with notes of roasted almond and dark chocolate. It's got the malts are pale caramel, crystal T50, dark crystal, chocolate, black malt, golden naked oats. It only has Columbus hops, and the yeast is AY4, and the adjuncts are the blackout blend of the Cogito coffee.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice that they have
all of the things on a can.
Yeah, nice that they have a blend of coffee in there as well, rather than just some beans, you know.
Yeah. Also, the Cogito blend. I mean, that just screams Descartes.
Ooh.
I drink, therefore I am, right?
Ooh. Someone's oohing and eyeing.
I'm oohing and ahhing. The Mockingbird Dream, the left-handed giant Deya collaboration, it's a lot more amber in colour than the previous hazy IPA from left-handed giant.
Yeah.
It's got a nice big nose to it. A bit more, maybe not malty, but it's got this slight kind of heaviness to the nose. When was this brewed? When was this one brewed? This one was brewed on the 30th, so not quite a month ago, 3 weeks ago. Oh, it's a lot deeper than the last bit, a little bit more viscous. And it is, I mean, thinking that the nose was maybe a little bit more malty, the flavour is a little bit as well, but it's still got that lovely thick nature to it as well. There's some very, very difficult to pick out fruits kind of floating around sort of towards the back. There's this sweetness in there as well. This sweetness, I think, from the malts kicking through, and it'd be interesting to see what malts they've got in this. It's almost got that hint of maybe toffee to it, just giving it that little bit of sweetness, kind of backing up these fruits. And it's kind of just got a lovely smoothness to it. These flavors kind of like one of the beers I had last week, I think everything kind of presents itself quite quickly and then peels away, leaving you with these different flavors, and that more malty, slightly toffee sweetness sticks around with you, and it's very, very pleasant. It's very, very easy. It's really nice, and it's not making me drink this at all. You know, it's still with me after that sip. That flavour is still there, lingering lovely. Definitely going in to get more from it and experience the whole thing again. But again, it just lasts and it lasts and it lasts and it lasts.
That sounds good.
It is, and the what was the hazy IPA called? Bless the Weather went down really swiftly. I think this is going to stick around a little bit more. I can sort of luxuriate over this a little bit. I don't need to reach for it because the flavour just lingers, just sticks around. There's a slight souring towards the end, only slightly, maybe a little bit of an earthy note in there as well, kind of on the finish. That's just pushing everything else up a little. But it definitely, especially for a Deya and a Left-Handed Giant beer, that kind of more sweet toffee, maybe edging on sort of caramel note is really interesting to get kind of within that as well. I know, having had a few beers a couple of weeks ago with Strata in, this is using it a little bit differently. Whether it's just balanced out by the Citra and Mosaic differently to the other ones, which those were ones that showcased Strata, so probably used a lot more within the brew than perhaps this is. It's not the leading hop on the bill. Whether they've just gone for a alphabetical or not, I don't know. Seems that way, but it doesn't affect it quite as much as you know, as those other Strata beers did. It's definitely got a little bit of an effect, but not a big effect. So it's very, very easy, very, very pleasant. I'm going to stop talking about it. Lucy, we'll come to you.
Yeah, like yours, Ben. Mine is a bit more ambery, a bit more orange than the last one. Head didn't stick around for nearly as long. It's a bit more, not as frothy and bubbly as the last one. Still a really good looking beer. Just as hazy and as opaque as the last time.
Yeah.
Definitely getting more aroma on this one, but I mean, it's been dry hopped with Mosaic. The other hops on the last beer were Mosaic and Azaka, but doesn't mention anything about dry hopping, so yeah, you'd expect the aroma to be a bit more in your face with the dry hop.
Yeah,
and getting those lovely like floral lavender like notes that I attribute with Mosaic, so it's a really good smelling beer. And I'm hoping it's definitely a bit more hoppy with the dry hop, so let's see.
Nice. Ooh.
It's just as easy as the last one. Not nearly as viscous as you'd think. Like, it looks like it might be a heavy looking. I mean, it almost looks like a double IPA, looks wise, but it's definitely easy to drink. Definitely. Oh, yeah. I still don't think it's quite there with like the hoppiness and bitterness, but I think it's a step above the tropical IPA in terms of tasting and feeling like a beer rather than like fruit juice. So I prefer that, but yeah, it's got a bit of like malty caramelness in it. So malt is definitely a bit more noticeable than the last beer. I think the last beer was just very much, oh, we've got like fruity citrus flavors, and that'll carry through the flavor, but like there's not much else in terms of dynamism. That's the word. But yeah, like it's getting there. It's getting there. Not quite there. It's still really good beer. Still really easy. Still really like tasty, but just throw some bitterness in there, man. Like,
Just want that little bit extra from it.
Yeah, and it's really smooth, and I think I just want that a bit of a harder edge, a bit more hoppiness in it. I don't know. As I say, still really enjoying these. Like, if you wanted to knock a couple back, like Boundary's where it's at. They're not heavy at all, and these are like perfect summer beers. It's a shame that it's like 9 o'clock and I'm not outside. Because these would be perfect for that, but yeah.
Good. Nice.
Not all the way there,
you'll have to record on your phone next week so you can just sit in the garden and relax and catch the last of the evening sun. Aadil, how about you?
So This one also has a bit of a sweetness in its nose, but it's less, I guess, it's more melded with the rest. So the nose is, you get a little bit of that coffee, but you mostly get those roasted notes. Some maltiness on a porter. It's really well rounded. So again, it's a 5.5% versus I think the last one was 5.2. Again, a little thin, but there's just a little more clinging to the tongue and the mouth that just helps make this feel more rounded than the previous one. It's much more roasted malt forward. Just like there's more depth to the maltiness, and there's just a lot going on, but it's all really well rounded. You get that coffee. I see why they called it a flat white coffee porter, but in the like byline they said cold brew iced coffee porter, and that's exactly what the difference is usually on like a coffee porter it's much more coffee forward, and this tastes kind of like cold brew coffee. Like it's a little more understated on that coffee, that it goes really well with the temperature. Yeah, it's really like you could start a hot day with one of these. Like it's I really like I said, there was like what 17 million different malts in there, and you can tell that, but that coffee doesn't interfere. It just comes in the back end. It's like, hey, yeah, now here's your cold brew, really nice solid coffee taste happening now that the malts have sort of done their thing, had their arc of taste. Yeah, this is really, really good. It's been a while since I've had sort of a coffee-based beer that does something different. Usually it's just like, okay, yeah, you're having a coffee porter, or you're having whatever. Like, you know sort of where the coffee sits. This is sitting in a slightly different place, and like I said, it's much more reminiscent of a cold brew than sort of a warm brew coffee, which is not something I've had before. Nice. And I think goes obviously really well with a literal cold beer. Yeah, good. The sweetness that I mentioned earlier is still there. And it's sort of like it fades quicker. So the regular taste, all those lovely malty notes fade. And you get this like high sweetness, and then you get the coffee, and then the sweetness fades, and you get this lovely sort of with a slightly dry mouthfeel, bitter coffee lingering, sort of iced coffee taste. And I think that sort of higher sweetness, if it lasted any longer, would be a put off, but I think it lasts just long enough that it helps transition you from sort of roasted malt forward to iced coffee aftertaste. So yeah, it's quite well crafted.
Good, nice. So let's leave these beers there and move on to our remaining topics for this evening. Lucy, I'll come to you first.
Okay. I played.
What do you want to finish the show on?
Played a couple of games as always. I finished Bloodstained. Curse of the Moon 2. That's more Bloodstained. For anyone who doesn't know, it's Castlevania 3. Very good game. It's definitely a bit more punishing with like the knockback, and there are certain choke points where it's like, yeah, we purposely designed this to annoy you, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna drop it to casual mode and screw you. But yeah, I finished like most of the levels on like veteran mode. It's either casual or veteran, which is kind of annoying. It's like, why is there no intermediary where it's like, oh, there's less knockback?
Play games a bunch but don't anymore category. Or I'm too old for Twitch reactions but still like playing video games.
Exactly. I'm 2 years older than when I played the first Curse of the Moon. That means everything. So yeah, but good game overall. So it's almost exactly the same, but as I say, more of that. I'm happy. I'll start with, not on a bum note, but it's like, this game is sad. Okay. It's called Before I Forget, and it's a game that's it's about you know, someone dealing with dementia and Alzheimer's disease. It's played from a first-person perspective. It's got this really nice watercolor like look to it, and you're sort of like picking up these mementos and these photos and these pictures around your house. You're playing as this woman called Sunita, who's she's immigrated to the UK. She got married over there, and it's like she's suffering from dementia. She can't remember any of this, and she's going around her own house, and it's so heartbreaking. It's like she can't remember where she is, and that this is her own house. And like one of the most heartbreaking moments is like, where's the toilet? And you're like walking around the house, and every door that you pick, it leads to the same place, sort of like PT, but with a lot much less horror.
Right, yeah.
But it's heartbreaking, but it's also a really honest, and I think one of the probably the best like examples in video gaming I can think, where they portray like, you know, mental illness in that way. Like, Ben, you loved Hellblade.
Yes.
You thought that was a very good take on like psychosis. I think this is alongside that game G30. Remember that puzzle game that we played? Where I think that's alongside that. Before I forget, it's probably one of the best takes of like, oh, this is what it'd be like. You know, as much as we can portray this, this is probably how harrowing this would be, and how heartbreaking it would be, and how unnerving it would be. I mean, it's not a horror game by any means, but there are like some moments where you know the use of the camera work from the first, the nature of the disorientation and stuff like that. It really hammers it home and captures it well. But it's sad, but I think the job of like conveying what it wants to convey. And yeah, it's on Steam. It's about £6.
Did it come out last week?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I remember. I was actually. It's been sort of on my radar for a little bit, and I was in the supermarket tracking through just Twitter and stuff, and noticed the devs had sort of started tweeting a bit more about it and sharing kind of responses and things to it, because it's only made by a small team.
Free fall.
Yeah. I think they were highlighting the idea of like the diversity of their team as well, as part of it, and trying to tell stories which are you know, different from kind of what we experience as you know, from mainstream games and things. And it's definitely one that I kind of, as soon as I sort of read a few of these different takes, and I'm like, oh, this sounds really interesting. As a very different experience to what I have been playing in the last few weeks.
Yeah, the protagonist is as I said, like expat Indian woman, and she's a master in like astronomy and like learning about different takes on like astrology, which is weird because like my friend got me to sign up to like a YouTube channel. She started like this astrology YouTube channel. It's like, oh, this is not like Greek mythology, which I'm used to. Like, oh, there's Orion, there's like Pegasus and stuff like that. It's like, oh no, there's different kinds of astrology. So who would have thought? Because stars are
like modern astrology, because they just decided to add some more.
So it's definitely got diverse points of view, which is refreshing. Like, how many times have you played a game where it's like, oh, I'm playing as a full Indian woman? Like, I'm not talking about Uncharted Lost Legacy. It's like, oh, okay, you know.
Okay, there's one game that I've played.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to finish on a laugh, because yeah, it is like, I mean, if you've got family members who suffer from dementia or Alzheimer's or stuff like it can hit home, and
yeah, definitely,
you know. But they go in to say like, look, this is, you can experience this in less than an hour.
That's right.
It's really short, yeah, and I think it really does a good job to capture that, whilst also, but it's still got like uplifting parts to it. You know, it's like this woman, she had a life and she had good times and stuff like that. So
nice.
It's not all sad doom and gloom.
Before you move on from it, just had a quick look on Steam. It is 10% off at the moment, so it's under £5.50, it's £5.39.
Wow.
But it says, is this game relevant to you? Similar to games you've played, Return of the Obra Dinn and the Stanley Parable. It's probably not like either of those games, is it?
Except that it's independent. And it's because it's independent.
And you walk around in it.
Yeah,
Welcome to shitty algorithms.
I'd liken it more to Gone Home, probably.
Yeah.
Okay, so like New Z.
I don't know. In the Stanley Parable, you walk into the same room a lot.
But the Stanley true.
Yeah.
But the Stanley Parable is a lot funnier and more like.
Yeah.
So,
I think it'd be fair to say it's the opposite of the Stanley Parable.
Yeah, I'd say if you like the Stanley Parable, go play jazz punk or something like that. Maybe don't do this. Yeah, it's much more of a somber note, but yeah, Steam. Yeah, what more can you say?
Yeah.
Another game that I played is called Radical Rabbit Stew, which is just simply an arcade puzzle game where you're slapping rabbits in it with a ladle into like pots, and it's like top down 2D. The guy you're playing as, he sort of looks like the dude from like Burger Time, so it makes you want to have rabbit loin for dinner, and it's fun. It's just a like arcadey puzzle game. Yeah.
Sorry, I just wasn't expecting you to say you're hitting them in the head with a ladle.
How else do you get a rabbit into a pot of stew? Like, you don't kill them before. It's like lobsters, you just dunk them in.
Oh no.
So yeah, these rabbits are evil. They'll bite you. They'll fight you back if you're not quick enough.
Oh.
So yeah.
Well, you're trying to cook them.
Whoa. Yeah. Rabbit's tasty. So.
That's true.
Well, I can't help that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, really, really fun puzzle game. I think it's probably about 3 hours long, depending on how quick you solve these puzzles, obviously. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's getting that right kind of logical thinking. It's like, okay, I've got to knock that rabbit first, and then I got to knock that rabbit into this brick to knock that down, and then get this rabbit into the. It's rabbit abuse, but it's It's a fun puzzle game. It's scratching that puzzly itch where it's like, yeah, I'm playing it on Switch. I can just watch or listen to a podcast and play this, and yeah.
Yep. Nice.
It's got a cool, like 16-bit, 8-bit, 16-bit, like kind of pixelated art style. So that's very much my jam. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I can't really think of any. I played Amanita Design's new game. People who did Samaros 3 and 2 and 1. And Botanicula, I can never say that.
Yeah. That one. I was gonna try and say it, and then I realized I was just gonna make something up and like that one.
Yeah, the one with the bugs, and the one with the weird little person with the hat, and he's going around all these different planets. So that is Samaros. But I really love their games. They're a small little developer. Are they Croatian? Oh. Let me Google this. Amanita Design.
Google it, mate. Kuchel.
Check. Yeah, Kuchel. Kukel or whatever. Yeah. Czech. 2003. Jesus. Yeah, I love all their games. They just make such good puzzle games. They're so weird and wacky, and you have no idea what's going on with them. But they always make sense. Machinarium is another one that they made.
Yes.
I think I played all their games.
Machinarium, the game that it seemed like I should want to play, and after like 3 screens, I was like, I don't like this, and I don't know why.
No, dude, it's good.
I've heard like it's one of those things where it's like I definitely know I need to go back to it because clearly that one day was just like not the day for me.
Yeah.
But I have.
Actually, saying that the art style in Creaks, which came out on Apple Arcade, I think it's coming to everything else this week.
Okay.
Yeah, it definitely is kind of like Machinarium. So if you didn't like Machinarium because of the look, I don't know, then maybe.
Look, I think I don't know what it was. I just maybe I was on a high. I don't know. Like it didn't work that day, and then never went back. And it didn't. It's not like it didn't work in where it was like this is fucking stupid. I hate it. It was just like I'm not feeling it.
Didn't grab you. Yeah, no, that's fair. That happens all the time, and then come back to it, and it's like the best thing ever.
Or never come back to it because there's too many games in the world.
Yep, that's definitely more your style.
So my style is, hey, that's the game. And then don't touch it.
It somehow ended up in my Steam library, but never gonna touch it. Yeah. No, Creaks is like it's kind of a game where you're not the active participant. You're more manipulating these things in the world to move things and move platforms and get out of your way and stuff like that. So it's kind of hard to describe, but it's more, you are more manipulating these objects in these level by level.
You're still a character, but you're moving through. Yeah, it's kind of like Oddworld almost.
Yeah,
that side-scrolling kind of. You have to go and actually hit a lever, move some stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a better example than I could have ever thought of. So thank you. But yeah, this is like one of the first games where you're playing as like a human instead of a robot or a bug or a piece of lint like in Kukel or whatever. But yeah, it's really fun. I definitely recommend it. It's that kind of puzzle game where it's like, yes, things ramp up and things get new elements, new mechanics get reintroduced or introduced initially right at the place where it's like, yeah, this is getting a bit not stale, but it's like, yes, this is the right point where you need to inject some, different mechanics, a bit more life into it, and it just flows really well. And it's one of those games where I never had to look at the solution. Difficulty spike never got too hard, but it still challenged me in a way where I felt satisfied and I felt smart enough by the end of it. So yeah, they make such good games. Definitely recommend that over everything else.
Nice. So, yeah. It's out on Steam on the 22nd, so tomorrow of recording day for those of you watching us on the stream. It's out tomorrow. For those of you listening to the podcast, it came out on the 22nd of July. So on Steam, at least.
And it's on your Apple Arcade.
I don't have an Apple Arcade.
For the two people who have Apple Arcade.
Again, Steam doing a brilliant job. Is this game relevant to you? Similar to games you've played, Disco Elysium, Return of the Obra Dinn. Doesn't look like either of those games. I mean, Steam just hasn't got a clue tonight, has it?
Anyway, that's a wrap.
That's adorable.
That's all I played. Now, Aadil, what? I need to use the toilet, so I want to see how Aadil worms his way trying to speak about something today. So
wait, I thought you needed to use the toilet.
I do, but I want to be here for this.
Well, the problem is, I don't think we have the time to get into the whole Ubisoft crunch.
Oh God, I'm going by.
We did talk about it. We talked about it a little bit last week, didn't we?
Yeah, but more revelations came out. I'm grasping at straws. Oh no,
she has gone for a wee.
Yeah, but Lucy turned her camera off, which means now the Adam picture on stream is over top Lucy.
Yep.
It's alright. Well, we talk about the combat in Ghost of Tsushima until she gets back.
I wanted to play Super Hot Mission Control Delete, but didn't. And then I've had this job application that I didn't foresee. So this week has been really light on games, including on Magic the Gathering online, on paper and online, there's been new thing called Jumpstart, which is basically you get 2 booster packs that have lands in them and a theme on each of them, and you smash them together and you can play. And it's like, there's no deck building. It's supposed to be super accessible. And I was hoping to like do some streaming and experimenting with like, hey, is this a good way to onboard? Like I've got friends who are kind of interested. I'm like, oh, is this a way to like onboard you because you don't have to worry about deck building or like really weird mechanics because it's all sort of designed to be in the sealed space.
Yeah,
and it's just supposed to be real fun. But I didn't get a chance to like. It came out last Friday, and I didn't get a chance to play even a round of it, just because my weekend was being out in a field one night and then just doing work the other night. And by a field, I mean on bread still. So that's the thing. Like I really want to do, and actually, I'd love to find someone who might be interested in learning CCG and seeing if this is a good way to like onboard at all, and maybe doing some videos for the YouTube channel on like this is like talking through, like doing a head-to-head, but like being able to talk through this is how this game works. This is why I find it strategically interesting. Here's some interesting like interactions, while also having the product being really accessible at this moment. But I didn't get to do that. I'm hoping to do that this weekend, maybe. But yeah, so that was going to be sort of my topic was Jumpstart. So basically, the idea is some of the themes are like, you know, all the creatures are dogs or unicorns, and some of it's like really esoteric, or it's like, does it have a doctor in the part? Apparently, so like, there's a whole bunch of themes that are like really strange, and you basically crack a pack that is theme based. You pick 2 different themes and you smash them together and you just try and play. But yeah, so unfortunately I didn't get to do that. So, and I also, because I've been trying desperately to do a good job at applying to this job, which is one of the few things that is out there in my field, but also is a very good example. Like this would be a fantastic job to get even in a non-COVID time. So I've just been focusing on that,
and you've got to put everything aside, you know, games and everything wise to focus on life. I think it's a good message for everyone at the moment. I imagine there's lots of people out there who have either started back to work or have gone back to a workplace having been working from home. Lots of different ways that life is at least in the UK is kind of getting back to how it was several months ago, and you know, gaming may have taken the forefront for a lot of people over the last few months. You know, lots of time off, lots of free time to be able to do stuff, and suddenly we're getting back into an area where we have to juggle our entertainment, juggle what we're doing with our lives. I can't
believe it. I had to do work today.
You had to do work as well, yes.
Wait,
yeah.
Lucy,
I was like, I legally can't tell you, but I was just like,
that's a cop out. Yeah, I totally did some work, honest.
Yeah, sure. No, like, I would be perfectly fine saying, like, I've been a bum for the last 6 months or whatever, because I have been, but yeah, I was like, you mean I can't just watch Netflix and play all these games? Like,
I mean, one of the kicks in the pants for me was like, I'm riding the coattails of savings and my last paychecks from the university, and I know that I probably won't get any teaching this year, and it's like, that's been a big kind of lackadaisical, and then it was like, oh, this job opportunity came up, and it like I might actually be able to get it. It's nowhere close to here, but that's fine. And it was like, right. But also, one of my housemates just got let go, and she's been at her from a part-time position that she's been at for years. And it's like, yeah,
this time, like,
yeah, but it was just like, right. I can't rely on scrounging for a job to make ends meet when like taking my time doing the shitty job search that I'm just at a position where in my life where I finished my PhD, getting an academic job will take some time, and it's generally a bad job market, and it's obviously way worse now, but it's like, right, I can't rely on well, I've got skills outside of that. I'll find something, because the people who live in the something are getting fucked by COVID and everything else as well. There's just no reliability. So it's like, oh, well, that means I really have to push to like not just sort of not be lackadaisical about the jobs I want, even if those are really going to be really rare, but also because then I also need to push just as hard for those things that in a regular economic climate, yeah, I'm sure I could find something that paid the bills, but now less sure.
Yeah, sure. It's a crappy time.
It is. Yeah, it is.
It's been
crappy for a while. Yeah.
I'll just join a industry with crunch. That'll solve it.
And getting your application and stuff right becomes all the more critical, which makes it all the more stressful.
Yeah.
I spent 2 weeks doing one.
It's
getting myself
what do you want?
It's one of those. It's having the courage to actually put yourself forward for something. And I hate.
Yeah, a lot of it is that, and like that's the thing in academia where if you don't square yourself with, I need to at least
try,
have the ego enough to be like, yeah,
this I can do this.
My area, but I could do this, and I need to tell you. No, not only does that mean I should apply, but also I need to apply and say I'm the one who can do this for you.
Yeah,
like in my head, I need the minimum bound of like I could do this, and then on paper I need to be like I'm the only one who could do this. These are the reasons why I'm the best one. Like the things that you think make me less qualified because I'm non-standard. That's why I'm the best one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I always just want to be on like every application. It's like I'm the smartest person you could ever employ, but that just sounds way too big-headed and egotistical for anyone to hire me, even though I know it's true.
I just wish you could be properly honest on these applications. I hate the whole you have to sell yourself shtick. I hate doing that. I'd rather just tell them I would like a paycheck. And you are offering one that will suit me.
Yeah. Well,
in exchange for that, I will do what I'm asked.
But I have no idea what this job is, but I will figure it out eventually. And yeah.
But also, like something's gone horribly wrong when, like the idea that you need to go above and beyond and do all kinds of extra shit to be the right person. It's like, no, actually, I should get this job because you're paying someone to do X. And I'll come in and do X, and I'll be good at it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm not going to do it when I'm not around, but that's not what you're hiring. It doesn't matter if someone, it shouldn't matter that someone's willing to fuck themselves over for this position, because you shouldn't be asking anyone to do that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It turns out our broken capitalist system undervalues labor to a strong degree.
It does. Absolutely. I've been told in a job, you're very good at this job, but you don't put in more hours than you need to. Like, no, you're right. I don't. And I'm never going to. Why would I? Pay me for the job that I'm doing.
Would you like to die in it?
That's the sort of question that the response I would give is, you do? Like, what? Are you mad?
The response you should give is, I bet you don't either. Fuck you. And that's why I'm unemployed.
You mean you'd like me to do the extra hour that you do instead?
I'll be like, I don't need to, because I'm better than you. I can do it in a shorter time.
Or, more importantly, it's if you pay me your executive wage of 6 figures, I'll work as many hours as you fucking want instead of minimum wage.
Absolutely.
I think that only works for some jobs. Some jobs. You'd say, what is your executive figure? And they say, it's this. And I'm not fucking working for that. Fuck you.
What you need to do is just get into like the tech startup industry. And then when they all collapse, you just take all the,
You just start your own.
all the decent tech, all the nice TVs, all the computers. Because that's all us nerds really want, isn't it?
I mean, I think we're probably about 20 years too late for that. But... yeah,
the .com boom is
yeah, there's a lot of people who bought and sold shares in Apple in the 80s or whatever that are killing themselves right now.
Yes, absolutely. And when
Looking at the
people
value of that going up.
I have absolutely no doubt that some teenager somewhere used to own something ridiculous like wank.com or something stupid, and then they're like, oh yeah, I can sell it for £100. And now there's some ridiculous porn site associated with it or something like that.
Yeah.
And they, which earns millions and millions.
It's like Bitcoin as well. It's like, if I'd gotten on board with that at the start, I mean, you'd be rolling in cash now for this thing that literally doesn't fucking exist.
Next, biggest trend then. What shall we bank on?
Oh, what could we bank on? As a final note to the podcast, what can we bank on for the next 10 years?
Executives at Ubisoft getting fired.
Yep. Okay, fine. Yeah, I'll put a bet on that.
No. They will resign.
Oh, yes,
they'll resign
yes.
with the golden parachute.
Yes, that's
They
true.
won't be fired. They will resign of their own volition. Yeah.
I mean, but you alluded to it slightly, Ado, as part of our topic, and we won't go into it. We kind of delved into it last week because how the fuck can Yves Guillemot run a company and not know all this shit's going on? Complicit. But it's
sweet little voice.
We constantly hear Ubisoft fighting off the evil mega French corporation from getting all of their powerful shares, and there's just a bunch of dickheads running it anyway. So fuck Ubisoft. We ended on it last week. We're on it this week. Fuck Ubisoft. Let's talk about the beers that we have drunk. Oh, it's me first. Look at my list as if I'm coming to one of you, but it's not. I don't know. I like both beers. I think the Bless the Weather, the hazy IPA, was much more refreshing, much easier to go down. The Mockingbird Dream, which is the double IPA collaboration with Deya, has that bit more body to it, has a bit more viscosity to it. Definitely highlights the malts a little bit more. But as I drank it, it became familiar. Almost, it's that lovely amalgamation of what Left Handed Giant do and what Deya do. It sits somewhere in between both breweries very, very well, and is a very well balanced, very well made beer. Which, having now drank a can, I could so easily drink, and I would not put it at an 8% double IPA. I'd say I can understand. It's definitely a bigger IPA. But maybe not quite hitting the 8%. And I think I'm going to pick that one this week just because of that. Just because it does a little bit more and presents itself a little bit better than the previous beer. And it does give me elements of both brewers as well. So a good collaboration in the sense that I'm getting two very distinct flavours or distinct elements that I can associate with both breweries. So yeah, just very, very well made. Lucy,
nice.
How about you?
Yeah, close one this week because they both fall foul to the not rounding out that experience how I would have wanted. Flavor profile, can't really fault either of them, save for I wish I had a bit more bitterness, but yeah, very fruit forward. The Right Hand Man Back, which was the second beer, had a bit more of a malt profile to it. I think I'm going to give it to that one rather than is it called the Imbongo? Yeah. Just because even though they both didn't have that kind of I just want a beer. I just want a beer. I don't want fruit juice. They're both guilty of that, leaning more into the fruit juice kind of thing. But I think the Right Hand Man Back did it a little bit better, maybe because of the dry hop to it. I don't know, but yeah, I think marginally I'm going to give it to that one. But yeah, they're both lacking in terms of coming full circle and having that rounded. Yeah. So.
Fair.
Easy drinking and really tasty beers. Just not enough beer for me.
Yeah, that's fair. Adil.
I think no one will be surprised that I like the flat white coffee porter from the Garden Brewery more than the Big Idea oatmeal stout from Mobberley Brewhouse. The flat white coffee porter just had a lot going on, and like I said, I've never had a coffee-based beer that clearly evoked cold brew in such a distinct way. Which is kind of mind-boggling because obviously you drink beers at a low temperature, and so cold brew versus hot brew seems like a shoo-in. But like it did the porter. It does have the taste. I shouldn't have pointed it out. I could have probably just kept steamrolling. Look, I've had a couple of beers. It's been a long day. I'm doing job application shit. I don't know what words are. Go die in a fire, people. No, don't. I mean, that's where it die. Find this beer from the Garden Brewery. It's really good.
I've never had beer from them.
Oh, I've had a few from them, and I think this is probably the best one I've had from them. And I do think that the reason I really like it, it also has 30 IBUs, is because it sort of did the porter thing, and then the aftertaste was very unique and did exactly what it says on the tin, which is, like I said, this cold brew iced coffee taste, and the two, like, there was a good transition between the two, and they didn't fight, and so I got, the initial taste is kind of bog standard coffee porter. But the finish is so unique and so interesting, and that's worth seeking it out, I think. Yeah.
Nice.
Good. Adam.
Yes. Hello.
You've only had your vodka and Dr. Pepper before. It's something that you regularly drink. We can ask you which drink of yours was best this evening.
Did you like the one that was slightly colder because you were closer to the kitchen at the time?
I preferred it when it had the ice cubes still in it and they hadn't melted. Yeah, that's definitely true. It's preferable then.
Trust me, I can make a comparison where one doesn't need to exist. I'm a philosopher.
I was going to ask: is this the kind of drink you would have all night? Is this something that you would sit for an evening gaming session with, for a night out with friends, and sit on the vodka and Diet Pepper? Diet Pepper? No, Dr. Pepper. Fucking hell.
What do you mean?
Or is it kind of that one shot for you? Is it like, I'll have one of these and then I'll move on to something else?
No, it tends to be what I would just drink. I found that, rather than mixing and matching or anything like that, I find that one, you can get it basically everywhere, which is handy, and two, I can control it quite well. So you can get that nice buzz and just hold that through a night, as opposed to going a wee bit too overboard or not having enough and being left behind by the party. As it were.
If you were at a bar, what would this be your drink of choice? Like just as a social drink then?
Yeah.
Like if you're at a sea bar or just
Dr.
Pepper and
well, usually at bars it would just be vodka and Coke, just because that's easier.
Okay.
And depending on what the people I was with were drinking, if they were having pints, I would maybe order like a double and just take a wee bit longer with it.
And always Smirnoff?
That is preferable, but I know just basically every bar switches you onto the cheap stuff after whatever time. You can always tell so they're tricking nobody.
The Glen's vodka comes out after
the paint stripper comes out.
I don't know. It's weird with spirits with me. I always feel like maybe I should find a more refined spirit the older I get.
You should.
Yeah, that's definitely the key, because the cheap vodkas are awful. Like the likes of Glen's, they just burn the whole way down. They're not pleasant to drink, even when you drown them in mixers. And that's, like I said, like I preferred the black label because it was that bit smoother. It was that bit nicer to go down with.
Smirnoff's not vodka.
Yeah, exactly. But the red label's still absolutely spot on for it. And there's a few I can't remember the names of, but there is a few other kind of ones. Like there's like New Amsterdam or something like that, and a few other ones that are maybe similar priced or a wee bit cheaper for the same kind of size bottle. That are all, you know, that kind of nice enough, but not awful. and without going for like the £80 bottles that break the bank that you look at and go, who's buying that?
Have you delved into sort of like the Grey Gooses and those slightly more premium brands?
I've had a couple. There's one that I always remember that I thought was absolutely brilliant. We had in a night out. It was complimentary at one place for I can't remember why.
Ooh.
And it was a kind of almost kind of like transparent coloured, but kind of cloudy with a white kind of pattern design on it, almost like a tree or something. I can't remember the brand. I just remember that we thought that was absolutely brilliant. We should have more of that, and looked it up, and it was like £120 a bottle.
Yeah, of course.
And you're like, that is why that was very nice, and we will not be having that again unless it's free, which it's not, obviously. I've tried a few, but I tend to find that when you're just drinking socially and that, it's easier just having, you know, the likes of a Smirnoff or something.
Yeah.
Dependable, not going to be too expensive, and you can have as much or as little as you want to see you through.
Right.
Yeah. I think when I was sorry, Adam, carry on.
No, I was going to say, especially if you're, you know, buying for a party. You're having, you know, if it's not just you drinking it, that's something you can buy a few bottles of and not feel like you've wasted your month.
Well, Adam, we're all over the age of 30, so we don't have parties. Right.
No.
I mean, we're also in the time of Corona, so
I meant before Corona, but orange Grey Goose is dangerous. I'll just say that it tastes like Fanta.
It sounds like awful.
Yeah, is that like Smirnoff Ice, or is it like a pre-mixed one, or is it?
No, I think it's just orange flavoured. From what I can remember, I'm sure it's Grey Goose.
Yeah, that does sound dangerous if it's not mixed.
It's dangerous, but yeah, I like a black or white Russian. And that's it.
I don't see colour, so I just have a
What a good place to finish this week.
God, I'm stupid. I apologize to everyone. I made light of racism.
I was going to say, if I could post script since we've ended. We forgot to mention like the most important mechanic in Ghost of Tsushima, the combat.
Yes.
It's fine. Next week. Come back next week.
I was just going to say, you know, anyone that was worried it would be too difficult, like Dark Souls or Bloodborne or anything like that, it's not as difficult as that.
Not at all.
It's just a baby game for babies.
Yeah, it's tighter. It's tighter combat than
might as well be in Nintendo game.
3. Yeah, it's tighter combat than that, and it walks the line between, you know, the katana and everything feeling very deadly without being too punishing. You can get away with making a hash of it a few times before you get killed all the time. It's not too overbearing in that regard, which is something I was a wee bit worried about, but it's not that bad. And I'm playing it on normal, so it's definitely not that bad.
Come back and tell us your closing thoughts, because I'm really interested on.
Yeah, we'll have to wait 2 months for Ben to finish it, but
it's fine.
He's the only one playing it.
When you finished it, come back and let us know and tell us kind of how it was as a whole experience. I may still be playing through it at that point. But
send me a disc as well. So.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have to send you my hard drive, and that's not happening.
Excellent, do that. But send it to me instead.
Take out the hard drive. It's fine, Adam. I'll give you mine.
There'll just be a bunch of games on it I don't know the name of. Like, what the hell are these indie titles? Who plays these?
And I don't know if I have. In fact, no, I will not send it to you because it might have Detroit on it, and that is a cursed game. So I'll never do that to anybody.
You have to factory reset it first.
It's got PT on it.
Oh,
no.
Can't cancel that. Leave PT. PT always.
Oh, send me your PlayStation if you have PT. I would like to play it.
Yeah, I will if you want. I don't know how, but yeah. My PlayStation's currently doing the rounds now, so...
Good, let's finish there this week. You can get hold of us in lots of different ways. Adam, if people want to talk to you about their favourite vodka, or what they're playing at the moment, and the games that you're playing, how do they do that?
On Twitter, it's @Snick, which is APTS in capitals, and then the rest of Snick in lowercase. That's a terrible description. I've done this poorly. Can you tell it's been a while since I've done this?
It's fine.
That is absolutely
APT
fine.
what?
Snack with a capital S.
SNEK?
SNACK, surely.
Yeah, I was trying to get him to spell it out so that he would consistently say all the letters of the handle, because that's what he was critiquing himself about, and he didn't take the option.
It'll be in the show notes if we have. I don't know.
Will it?
Sorry. Just look for the Haunter as the avatar. That will do it.
Yeah.
You'll find me that way. You'll spot me, a wild haunter. Out
Good.
in the
The
wild.
haunted that people can't see on the video because I put some vodka and coke in front of me.
Yeah,
Hang on, let's
except when Lucy leaves the room, in which case then you see the haunter.
Gone. There he is. There's the little haunter.
See, there we go. It's even haunted the podcast. There we go.
Yes.
Done it.
I am at Nova_47 almost everywhere. Lucy is JuicyLuce9 on all of the platforms she exists on. Aadil is at the Omniarch almost everywhere. There's an underscore in there occasionally on things that get used,
like Twitch
on the occasion. We are Tanked Up Cast on Instagram, on Twitter. You can get all of us at outoflives.net and go there to read articles that we're putting out, to look at the other things that we're doing. Lucy, you and I had our second part of the Last of Us Part 2 spoiler cast.
Good.
So we ran through our thoughts on the second half and the ending of that game. Adam is constantly putting up articles and writing different things about his experiences within gaming, mostly. That are going up on the site as well. So go to outoflives.net to look at what we're all doing over there. Also go to our YouTube channel. Adam, you've been doing a lot of hard space shipbreaker stuff over there.
Yeah, salvage set. A convenient name for that. That I'm surprised no one else has stolen. Because I did search for it and no one's really bothered.
Nice.
I thought even the developers would have came up with that before me, but nope.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, I've been putting up a weekly video. It was a short video last week, but it tends to be the way the game's broken up. The shifts are about 15 minutes long, so the videos are usually just the one shift, showing you what I'm doing and me talking through it, and usually me failing miserably at something or setting myself on fire. Because let's be honest, that's where the content is.
Absolutely. And a nice, I suppose, change of pace for you as well from something like Ghost of Tsushima, a very different game to be able to go and for viewers to go and take a look at.
Yeah, it's a lot more. It's not exactly chilled out, but it's because of the 15-minute kind of timer. It's much more kind of bite-sized.
Right.
So you have that. You can obviously do as many of them in a row as you want anyway, but with the 50-minute timer, you feel like you can just go in and do the one shift, and then if that's you sorted, you can just turn it off after that. It doesn't feel like as big as something like Ghost of Tsushima, even though you can play it endlessly.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's good fun. I enjoy it.
Good.
Flying about in space, cutting ships up. It's good stuff.
So that is all of us over on YouTube. That's us on the internet. That is us this week. We've been Tanked Up. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
www.outoflives.net